Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, December 10th, 2025. I am Dave Biddle. We have a very special guest today, Bill Rabinowitz. First of all, great guy. He's going to be like, oh, you don't need to say that. No, he is. He's a great guy. He's a longtime beat writer for the Buckeyes. Does a fantastic job. And he's also an author. This is at least his third book, maybe more, on the Buckeyes that was just released in late October. It's getting great reviews. It is Buckeye Brotherhood. And we're going to talk to Bill about his new book. We're going to talk to him about where you can find him on Substack to read Bill's writing. And we're going to get into the 2025 Buckeyes too. All right, is Bill going to have to write another book? Not have to. Will he get a chance to write another book about another national championship, the first back-to-back national championship in school history? Bill's like, don't sign me up for more work, man. Come on. Let's bring in Bill Rabinowitz. Bill, welcome to the show.
Nice to see you, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's good to talk to you. You and I have been friends for a long time, and congratulations on the book. It's getting fantastic reviews. People can be sometimes mean online. I don't know if you knew that, but it's getting fantastic reviews. Buckeye Brotherhood, the definitive chronicle of the Ohio State Buckeyes 2024 national championship season. What's a few things you really want people to know about the book, Bill?
Well, everyone knows what happened, right? I mean, they know that Ohio State lost to Oregon, lost to Michigan, crushing loss. They know there was some kind of team meeting afterward, and then they went on the obviously historic playoff run. But the how and why of it, I don't think people really knew because, as you know, Dave, Ohio State's pretty, kind of a fortress in a way, and it's hard to get at the deeper questions. And so the book hopefully answers those. The individual story, starting with Ryan Day. Ryan Day has never told his personal story the way that he opened up to me, which I'm very grateful for. But not just him. I mean, Jim Knowles I talked to him for 3 hours as he was driving in a snowstorm about his past and the players. That's the heart of the book. It's not the games. Everyone knows what happened in the games. It's the personal stories of the adversity that they all faced and overcame.
The meeting, we've all talked about the meeting after the loss to Michigan, the come to Jesus meeting or whatever you want to call it. So it was the players and Ryan Day, right? That was it. That was it. You don't give up too much of your inside info from the book, but tell us what you can about that meeting.
It's funny. I just posted it on my Substack. Because I figured people would be curious after losing to Indiana last week how Ohio State responded last year in a similar situation. So for my annual subscribers who've been generous enough to pay to read me, I put that chapter out there. So if you want to read that entire chapter, go to billrabinowitz.substack.com. But anyway, so what happened was 2 days after the game, the leadership committee, about 20 players, met with Ryan Day to try to figure out, okay, how do we move past this? And they all agreed that they should have a full team meeting, just Ryan Day and the players, no other assistant coaches. And so Ryan Day sat in the team room where we do the interviews. And for, I don't know how long it took. I joked with these guys that, why didn't one of you tape it? Saved me a lot of time. So I had to piece it together over months, I'd ask every player. I interviewed almost every significant player on the team. And slowly pieced it together that way. And what was interesting to me was the player who kind of got the ball rolling, of all people, was Mitchell Melton, who was a backup defensive end who'd lost 2 seasons to ACL injuries. A role player, a good player, but a role player. He went to Virginia this year and played well. But he had lost 4 straight to Michigan. He was pissed. I mean, just like, how did this happen again? And he thought one of the reasons was that Ryan Day and the coaches were too intent on running the ball. Because Ryan Day had said, whoever wins the running battle, runs for more yards, usually wins this game. Well, that could be a cause and effect thing. You run the ball and you gain more yards because you're ahead and you're trying to kill the clock. And so that started it. And then it just became very blunt. Players challenged each other. They challenged Day. Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? One player said at one point, when you make that kind of comment, that's when we hate you. And Ryan Day took it. And Caleb Downs and Seth McLaughlin, who played for Nick Saban at Alabama, are like, oh, my God, Nick Saban would never take this. And so and Day challenged them. He said, look, I didn't miss 2 field goals. I didn't throw 2 interceptions. I didn't mishandle kicks. This is everybody. We're all accountable here. And as the meeting went on, there was a transformation. It went from bitching and anger to kind of like, okay, let's fix this and become unified. And at the end of the meeting, G. Scott Jr., who has one of the most amazing stories, personal stories in the book, he led the team in prayer. And he said guys were crying. They left that room a completely different team. So if you want the details on exactly what happened, as much as I can tell, either buy the book or join my Substack, or better both.
I was going to say, do both.
do both.
You can get you can get a book for yourself and one as a gift for somebody. You can, get somebody a Bill Rabinowitz subscription on Substack as a gift, as a holiday
Even
gift.
better.
Get one for yourself. So
Even
it's Bill Rabinowitz at Substack.com. Do I have that right?
Not Substack.com.
Yeah, .substack.com. So Bill Rabinowitz .substack.
Or you can go to just the Substack.com app and find me. It's
Cool.
Bill on the Buckeyes and Bill Rabinowitz, whatever.
And we have a lot of people already saying they have your book. But for those that don't, Buckeye Brotherhood, it's getting fantastic reviews. I can't wait to read it myself. Bill and I are kind of busy during the season. Finally, this week, Bill, it's like, we get to take a little bit of a breather, a little bit.
Weird. I woke up yesterday going, what do I do today? It was like, because we're so used to the routine,
Right.
Tuesdays you go to the Woody and you have the interviews, and today we actually have one, but it's different. But yeah, so it's like now I've got to plug the book. It's obviously Christmas holiday season, and so I want to. What you said is fortunately very true, and I've not gotten any negative comments about the book. I've got nothing but praise, which you always brace yourself for. You screwed this up, you screwed that up, and I found a couple of typos which drive me nuts. But in terms of substantive stuff, nothing so far, and I'm grateful for that. And I really do believe that every Ohio State fan who cares about what happened last year and wants to kind of relive it will relive it in a way that they didn't just by watching the games. I think even Ryan Day learns stuff because he doesn't know all the stuff about everybody. And so I think everybody would learn something that they didn't know.
Because like you said, everybody, we know what happened as far as the games. They were knocked down, left for dead. We knew they were going to make the CFP, but no one really gave them a chance to go on a 4-game run, and they did it. So we know all that, but we don't know all the intricate stories that like talking to the players and talking to the coaches. And I can't wait to read it. It's going to be great. And this is I don't want to shortchange you. This is your third book on the Buckeyes?
It's my third, I don't know how you would describe it. I helped Cardale Jones with his autobiography. So that was a couple of years ago. So that was 4 if you count that.
We count that.
Yeah. Buckeye Rebirth about the 2012 season, the Chase about the 14 national championship season, now this one. And all of them were accidental. I had never intended to be an author. This is all just kind of by circumstance.
Yeah, I remember you wrote the first one in 2012 after the undefeated season. And I don't know if you remember this. We were coming back. I believe we were on the media shuttle coming back from the national championship game in 2014. The shuttle I was on the way, I'm sure were already at the stadium. We took kind of a late shuttle. Steve Hellwagon, Jeff Rapp, and a few others. It broke down on the side of the highway. Remember our hotel was in Dallas, and then the game's obviously in Arlington. So it's not that quick of a drive from Dallas.
Right.
So we broke down halfway. It was super cold. But on the way back, I remember you joking because you weren't serious. You're like, I'm going to have to write another book now because they had just
I remember that because I remember thinking because, it's hell writing a book, especially in 4 months. It's just hell. So to do it the way I want to do it, I mean, I could write something just off rehash and probably do it in a month, but I wanted to dig deep. And so I remember that being like everyone else is gleeful and I'm depressed because I know what my life's going to be for the next 4 months. I think I called my wife and I said, see you in 4 months, honey.
No, maybe you weren't joking. Maybe you weren't joking.
No, I was not joking. This one, I actually was looking forward to writing this one, which was very much a change just because I could escape and just go into my book cave and just, these are tough times. And so I was kind of happy to immerse myself in something. So I don't have time for anything else. So,
and you didn't just write a book 2 years ago. Well, you kind of did with Cardale, but you know what I mean? You had just written a book in 2012, and you had to turn around and write another one in 2014.
Right. The 2 and 3 years.
Urban Meyer stopped winning so much here.
Yeah. So people have asked if I'm going to write one this year. No, and it was funny, after the Michigan game, Michigan game, Ryan Day made that comment about somebody asked him what was the locker room like, and he said, "Well, I don't want to say Bill write another book," and I'm like, "Oh God," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." Now, if they win it again, I've kind of talked with my publisher, and we haven't decided anything, but I might like write an addendum, maybe 15,000 words or something like that, and then re-release the book next year if they win it all. We'll see. I'm not sure about anything yet.
Cross that bridge when we come to it, my friend. And we do have a question from one of your fans out here. He said, "I'm waiting for the Amazon delivery of paperback version. When will it arrive, Bill?"
Well, this may be news to some people, but I don't run Amazon. You take that up with Jeff Bezos, but it's been very frustrating because my publisher gave them what they thought was an ample supply, and they went through them very quickly. And that's why we rushed a paperback version into print. And Amazon, I didn't know this, has the capability of printing their own paperbacks. They were supposed to do that weeks ago. I just talked to my publisher yesterday. He assured me that he talked to Amazon and they're going to have it soon. So it's very frustrating to me because obviously I want to sell books and I want people to read the book. I mean, the sales are great. I want people to read it. And so Amazon is Amazon. You can still get them through Barnes & Noble. The publisher made sure that all the Ohio stores are well stocked. Again, it's paperbacks. The hardcovers are basically gone. I've got my supply. I think Amazon's supposed to get some eventually. And the bookstores that I have signings for have some. So Barnes & Noble, some Barnes & Noble. I know the Book Loft has some. I know the Gramercy Books in Bexley has some. Beyond that, I'm not sure. And you can also, if you subscribe to my Substack, I've got a deal there for the book. I'll give you a free paperback if you're an annual subscriber.
There you go. We do have somebody saying Amazon has the paper book listed. I don't know.
Yes, but it changes day by day.
Yeah.
It's available today or available after Christmas. It's kind of nuts. It's frustrating.
Yeah. Well, everybody buy the book. Buy two, buy more. Give one as a gift.
Nice.
Get one for yourself. Do a subscription on Bill's Substack. Come on, support our guy here. Long time, as you guys know, long time beat writer for the Columbus Dispatch, and now doing his own thing on Substack and writing books and all that good stuff. All right, let's look at the 2025 Buckeyes. Maybe a loss will wake them up again. Maybe they don't need a big team meeting again. But what do you think of the college football playoff draw for Ohio State? Just your thoughts on where this Buckeye team is at heading into the CFP.
Yeah, for Ohio State, I actually thought they'd be better as a 3 seed because they would have played Ole Miss, which is I kind of liken them to a jockeyless horse right now, right? I mean, they lost Lane Kiffin, and or Tulane, which I don't think Tulane's going to beat them. But so I think that would have been an easier draw than Texas A&M or Miami because either of those teams, I think, have the talent to beat Ohio State. They're inconsistent, but that's a scary matchup in the quarterfinals, and then you got to play Georgia. Now you'd have to play Georgia if you were the 2 or the 3 seed. But look, you're gonna have to beat good teams to win the national championship, and I don't think that other than Ohio State and Indiana, there are any great teams that are just week to week to week have been dominant. It's not that kind of year. I like Ohio State's chances. I think they're better than everybody else. I still think they're better than Indiana. If they played them 100 times, they'd win the majority of them. Not anywhere close to 90, but Indiana's really good. But as I rewatched the game for my DVR review, there were lots of plays Ohio State left on that field, lots of them.
Yeah, I mean, and the offense was just, I don't know what. I mean, and the Michigan hangover is real. They had a lot of distractions that week.
Right.
I think it was one thing or another. Right. You could be like, that's an excuse. Then you pile those things up. I just think it's reality. I mean, they got home, emotional win over Michigan. Then you get home super late because of the weather. Then, all the Brian Hartline stuff, which I'm going to ask you about in a second. Yeah. Then all the drama on signing day. Signing day should not be where it is. I've said for years. Even back when I worked for newspapers, I've been writing columns for years saying they needed an early signing period, like when they only had the one signing period. They need an early signing period. It needs to be in July. Finally, they put an early signing period. I was like, thank God. Then I saw it was in late December. I'm like, what are they doing? Then it's like, oh, we're gonna move it. We're gonna move it back, and we're gonna make it earlier than that. They're gonna just make it earlier December. I think they need to do it in July. I think that would be perfect right before camp starts. But that's just me. But yeah, Brian Hartline, what do What are you hearing there? What do you think should happen? What will happen with the Heartline here in the postseason?
Well, Tom Herman did this 11 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They had taken the Houston job. Now, I think, honestly, that Tom Herman had more say in the actual play calling back then than Brian Hartline does. I think it's more collaborative now with Ryan Diggs. This is his first year, Brian Hartline's first year calling plays. So I think that I think Ryan Day has been very involved all along. But now that you have this gap, you don't have 6 days between games. It'll be at least 10. Well, you have 3 weeks now. I think Ryan Day will be very, very involved in the nitty gritty of game planning. Now, obviously, they don't know their opponent, but they can certainly do research on both. Ohio State has the resources to not be, to do that. So, I think it'll be a challenge for Brian Hartline. I remember talking to Tom Herman. He told me that, he just didn't sleep. He got maybe 2 or 3 hours of sleep every night. And so I think there's going to be a lot of that. But you're right about what happened last week. I think all that stuff accumulated. Brian Hartline, that's not his fault. That's when they offered him the job. That's when he's got to take it. It's not his fault. But, he's thinking about his future. And he's also thinking about the game. And you need undivided attention on these things. And the Chris Henry thing, which obviously lingered, he's the only 5-star in the class. You don't want to lose that guy. They already lost a receiver. And so I understand why all this stuff. And again, they should have beaten Indiana. Indiana's really good. I'm not taking anything away from Indiana. But, it was a winnable game. And not just because the field goal miss at the end. There are lots of things that they could have done better.
Real good chance I shouldn't say real good, a decent chance we're going to have a rematch in the national championship game. Right. Both teams have a tough draw. I mean, Indiana will have to get through Texas Tech or Oregon, and that won't be easy for them. And Ohio State, you're right. I mean, Georgia, we have somebody in the chat saying that's going to be could be like kind of the pseudo national championship game.
Yeah, like the Texas game last year.
Yeah. So, you might play A&M in Texas, just like they had to play Texas in Texas last year, which was basically a home game for the Longhorns, as you know. Let me ask you this before I let you go. So, by the way, I saw our colleague Doug Lamarice, who also is on Substack, saying there's too much complaining, and I completely agree with him. Like, by college football media, he's like, there's too much complaining. Like, I understand some complaining, but there's just too much complaining. He went as far as to say the college football playoff is perfect. I don't know if I'd go that far, but let's make Bill Rabinowitz the commissioner of college football, and you have full power here. All right, playoff structure. How you doing it? You going? Do you like 12, 14, or 16? And then how do you determine those teams? Is it just 16 best or the 12 best? Do you have automatic qualifier? How would you do it if you were?
Yeah, I haven't given a ton of thought to it. I like 12. I like controversy. It's like the NCAA basketball tournament where, teams on the bubble and then people are pissed off because they didn't get in. Look, 12 teams is enough that you should get in if you play well enough. I mean, that's, Notre Dame, I feel for them. I think they're certainly one of the 12 best teams in the country, but they knew the rules. Don't lose 2 games. And honestly, play a better schedule the rest of the way. Now, I know schedules are done way in advance, and that's not so easy. It's not like basketball where you do it, that season. But, you look at the other games they played, who was the best win? USC maybe? I don't know. So, Alabama, I understand why the committee had them in because they don't want to penalize a team for losing the conference championship, because if that happens, then it's inevitable that some team will just say, I'm not playing in this. I'll abstain because I don't want to. I'm in now, but if I lose, I might be out. Remember Georgia a couple of years ago? They were number 1. They were undefeated, I think. And this is a 14 playoff. And then they lost the SEC championship game. They're out. They didn't make it at all. And people thought they were in no matter what. So you don't want to incentivize teams backing out of that. Now, I don't know if the league by rules would allow that, but I understand why Alabama was in, and they did obviously have some good wins, but they also lost 3 times, didn't look good, obviously, against Georgia. So I like the fact that there's controversy, because if you go to 16, you're going to have the same thing. The 17th and 18th teams are going to bitch. Right. So you're never going to escape it. I like having the first round games on campus. I really do. I just think the bowl structure is just an anachronism. I just think that it's so obsolete. And you're seeing this now. Notre Dame not going to even play in a bowl game. Imagine if Ohio State 2 years ago, after losing to Michigan, says, we're not going to play Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. We're not happy about this, and we're just going to take our ball and go home. I think those bowls, the non-CFP bowls, are worried, and rightly so.
Do have one more question before I let you go, because I'm just curious about it. I'm hearing there's a good chance, probably a great chance, Matt Patricia's coming back next year. I know Penn State reached out to him. They reached out to him about their head coaching gig. They obviously went with Matt Campbell, but I'm hearing Matt Patricia's probably going to come back to Ohio State next year. What do you think? Are you hearing the same thing?
Well, I know how happy he is. You can see it in his face. Now, we don't get to talk to him, which is, regretful. We'd love to, talk to him. But he seems very happy. His kids are happy. The NFL is the not for long thing. That's a real thing. I mean, the Detroit Lions gig did not go well. I don't know that he wants to go back and be a coordinator again. I haven't asked him, so I don't know this. But he seems very happy. Obviously, he's done a great job. And why not? Why not stay? I mean, he's got, from already his coaching career, I'm sure he's got more money than he ever needs. And, Ryan Day is a good guy to work for. He's going to give you autonomy as long as you do your job. And obviously, he does his job very well. So I have kind of thought that Ryan Day, and we talked about this a little bit for the book. I'm not sure I ever used it, but he's kind of at the point where he understands he's probably going to have to be like Nick Saban was at Alabama and get kind of these reclamation projects. Very talented guys, but guys that are going through that cycle where they need to rehabilitate themselves in some way.
Like Chip Kelly last year. Yeah, like Chip Kelly last year. Right. And I love it. Taking a page out of Saban's book, that's a good book to take a page out of. Yeah, that's what they're
going to have to do. Because look, if you can't keep Brian Hartline, who's an Ohio State player, Ohio State coach, from Canton, all that stuff, these guys are going to want to advance, and they should. I don't know, just to Brian Hartline, he should, do what he did. But so you're going to have an up and coming guy who's going to probably leave if he's good enough, or you've got an established guy that you don't have to teach at all. I mean, Ryan Day had to help Brian Hartline this year. He didn't have to help Matt Patricia. And if Matt Patricia's happy here, why wouldn't he stay? Now, do I think he's going to be here in 5 years? No. No. But another year. Now, some of it might depend on whether they win it or not. I mean, Chip Kelly might have come back if they hadn't won it last year. He told me, look, I came here to help Ryan win a championship, a national championship. I did. Jim Knowles told me that they did the two things they wanted to do: be the number one defense in the country and win the national championship. So when Penn State, his home school, offered him more money and the opportunity there, he thought, let's go try to do it there. So I think that it makes sense, the way that it's got to be structured this way. Ohio State's arguably the top program in the country right now, certainly a top 3 over the last generation. And so why wouldn't you want to stay and also use that as a platform to advance if you want to move on?
Well, I've already kept you longer than I requested. So I'll allow you to move on. Everybody buy the book, Buckeye Brotherhood. It's the reviews are off the charts. Buckeye Brotherhood. Buy the book, and then support Bill on Substack as well. Bill Rabinowitz at Substack.com. Bill, thank you so much for your time, sir. I appreciate it.
Dave, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
He is Bill Rabinowitz, longtime beat writer, as someone said, one of the definite OGs of the Ohio State beat, and a fantastic author, and just a good all-around guy. So support Bill. Not just support Bill. I mean, it's just good stuff and perfect timing with holiday season here. Like, oh, I have a Buckeye fan. I need to give them somebody already has like 50 different Ohio State shirts. I'm going to get him another shirt. How about get him the book? Get her the book. Whoever you're getting these presents for, they probably have enough gear, but they don't have Bill's book probably. So, and you maybe get yourself one too. And so again, support him on Substack too. That's really cool. Bill Rabinowitz at Substack.com. All right. So some of you guys really want Brian Daboll. I would like that. Yeah, give me a guy who was just a head coach in the NFL to come here and help with the offense. I'm down with that. I always get a kick out of when people say, well, I don't know, man, he wasn't that good of a head coach in the NFL. Well, okay. Well, here's the thing. My Reds fans are mad at me for having this hat on. Like, listen, I know it would have been great having Kyle Schwarber the next couple of years. I still think that the back half of that contract might be an albatross in a few years. He's almost 34. Typically, guys like that don't age well, like DHs. They're just sluggers. But I would have loved to have him. I would have been excited, but I'm not as bummed as most Reds fans. I never really thought it was going to happen. I was like, yeah, the Reds will make an offer, and then the Phillies will trump it. And it turns out the Orioles had a better offer out there than the Reds anyway. So least surprising thing in the world. But I believe in Francona. I believe they're going to make a few more moves. So I'm not taking my Reds hat off. But Brian Daboll, I would love that. I would absolutely love the Brian Daboll. And yeah, that was really cool hanging out with Bill Rabinowitz. Buy the book, my friends. So yeah, I mean, I would bring in, my thing is, here's the difference. I compared it with, Bill mentioned Tom Herman. I said, that was the first thing I said when I did the impact story. I did say two things. I said, it's mitigated. Losing Brian Hartline is mitigated by the fact, next year to USF is that he's going to stick around for the end of the playoffs. At least that was the plan at the time. We think that's still the plan. There's been some talk, maybe it's not the plan, but now we're hearing it is the plan. Who knows? That sounds like it's fluid. So that was one thing that mitigated it. It's like Hartline, it's not going to affect this year's team. He's going to stick on to the end of the season. The other thing that mitigates it is Ryan Day has been heavily involved in play calling this year. Brian Hartline's called some of the play. It's a collaborative effort, but it wasn't like, Brian was calling all of the plays and Ryan just had veto power. No, it was more than that. Big games, Ryan Day was calling a lot of the plays, big moments, things like that. And Brian was heavily involved in everything. So was Tyler Bowen, run game coordinator. But Ryan Day, this wasn't like last year where Tripp was calling all the plays. All right, Ryan was calling a lot of the plays this year. And he will continue. He'll just be more, like Bill was saying, he'll just be now more involved. And I was told he was already very, very, very heavily involved, to the point where he was the primary play caller in big games, big moments. So, but the difference is, to play devil's advocate with my own logic, with Tom Herman 11 years ago, they only had to navigate 2 games. They had, the Heartline news broke before the Big Ten championship game. So at that point, they had to navigate 4 games. First one did not go real well, my friends. I know I'm breaking news there. But now they still have to navigate 3 to get to the ultimate goal. So it's a little tougher than when, Herman took the job after the Big Ten championship game, I believe, the 59-0. And then they only had 2 more games. But he, like he was telling Bill, Bill gets all these cool nuggets. He was telling Bill, I was getting like 2 or 3 hours of sleep. I wouldn't be able to function like the next day, let alone if it was happening like consistently. At some point, I would just like keel over and not be able to function at all. But that's crazy. 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night for like an extended period of time. That's a good way to lose your health. Such is the life of a head football coach who's also the offensive coordinator at another school. So, yeah, man, here's what I would do. First of all, I trust with whatever Ryan Day is going to do. That's number one. I trust whatever Ryan Day wants to do. I completely trust. The second thing, hopefully the thing that I trust that Ryan Day will do will be something like bring in a Brian Daboll, and just let Brian go to the USF and recruit, because it's going to be tough for him to do both jobs and be focused on it. Or maybe you bring in Brian Daboll as an analyst and keep Hartline on too. Best of both worlds, maybe. Right. And Brian then can be distracted because he's got Brian Daboll there. Coach Day does also lean on, as he gets integrated with the offense. I like your guys' I like your thinking there. I like your thinking. So here's the thing. I was kind of alluding to this before, like failed NFL head coaches, when people say, oh gosh, I don't know if I want him like coming as a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator. It's like, well, Chip Kelly. Although people forget, Chip took the Eagles to the playoffs his first year. They were 10-6. Not that they got knocked out in the first round, but it's not like he was like a disaster 2-14 every year. He went 2-14 his final year. So it got progressively worse. His Eagles tenure got progressively worse. And then he had 2 winning seasons with the Eagles. And then he went to the 49ers. That didn't go well. Ryan Day was with him for his final year in Philly and his lone year in San Francisco. So Ryan saw the bad of the Chip Kelly years in the NFL. The point is, Chip Kelly, people like, because it ended so poorly, people paint him as a really bad, failed NFL head coach. And I understand that. He wasn't coming here as head coach. He was coming here as offensive coordinator. That worked out pretty well. I laughed when there was a lot of people. We've talked about this on the show a lot. There was a lot of people. I'm not even just talking about national writers and fans. There were media in this town, radio hosts, writers, on and on, who weren't just skeptical. Or Patrick Murphy said, I was a little skeptical of it. I had questions. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about guys that were saying definitively it was a terrible hire, bringing Matt Patricia here. And every one of them had the same rationale. He was a disaster with the Detroit Lions. Okay. Let's talk about coaches again. And he wasn't coming here as head coach. Let's talk about coaches that were disasters in the NFL as head coaches who were like some of the best college head coaches ever. How about Urban Meyer? How did he do in the NFL? He's a legendary college football coach. Steve Spurrier, how did he do in the NFL? Legendary college football coach and player, Heisman winner. But we're talking about coaching. Nick Saban was not as big of a disaster as Urban and Spurrier. Still wasn't that good. He also was a bad GM. He picked Dante Culpepper over Drew Brees. You chose poorly. He chose poorly. And it's still funny. I mean, we were talking about this the other day. Alabama, actually, you guys remember this? One of the craziest things that doesn't get talked about enough. Alabama offered the job to Rich Rod first. Rich Rod almost accepted it and turned them down. So then they pivoted from Rich Rod to who ended up being the GOAT, Nick Saban. But you can't look at what a guy did in the NFL. So I don't want to hear anybody, and you guys aren't saying this. You guys are saying we want Brian Daboll. I agree with you. At least somebody like that, because I don't care that he wasn't successful in the NFL as a head coach. That is great experience. And one of his years with the Giants, they were really good. Wasn't he like NFL Coach of the Year his first year there? And I know they won a lot of close games, and maybe it probably was fluky when you looked at what happened. But they had Saquon at the time. That was before they allowed their Saquon to go to a division rival. That was smart. That was on Daboll though. So, man, give me a guy that was an NFL head coach and it was a very successful offensive coordinator before that. I mean, that's why he's in the head coach, because he was a damn good offensive coordinator with the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen talks about it a lot. So that would be awesome. And normally, if this was like 2-3 years ago, I would say like that seems like kind of like a pipe dream though. Is Brian Daboll really going to come here? But then with what happened with Chip Kelly, and Chip Kelly wasn't just a former NFL head coach. I mean, he was, really, he was a good head coach at Oregon. Was he great? No, he took Oregon to a national championship game. He took him to a Rose Bowl where he lost to Jim Tressel and the Buckeyes, of course. Sorry, Chip, I had to throw that in there. Matt Patricia, I mean, as I said, you had people like just calling that out as a terrible hire. And like some of us really liked it at the time. And, it's fun seeing how it panned out. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. I think that's a good idea. I would, if Ryan was torn and he asked me what I thought, which he would never do if he was torn, he would ask people that he actually has working for him that he trusts. But if you ask me what I thought, I would say if you're torn, I would let Brian go and bring in Brian. Let Hartline go and bring in Daboll if Daboll wants to come. Or I've heard people say, what about bring Kevin Wilson back as like an analyst just for the playoffs, or bring Chip back? Any of those I think are, whatever. I trust whatever Ryan does, but I think bringing somebody in for the outside for the playoffs, and would it be better if it was somebody that was already familiar a little bit with how things are done here? Yes. Kevin Wilson was here for many years. Chip was only here for 1 year, but him and Ryan are as tight as you can be. So that'll be interesting. All right, we'll talk more about that on Friday with J Book. Dan Rubin will be with you guys tomorrow talking recruiting with the boys. Thank you very much to our special guest, Bill Rabinowitz. That was really cool. Buy his book, Buckeye Brotherhood. I mean, as I said, the ratings are just like reviews are just off the charts. You usually don't see that. Like I'll know a movie is a flat out 5-star movie. I have no doubt in my mind you'll get on some there'll be some clown that rates it like as a 2 that knocks it down. Everybody is saying this book is awesome, and that's the least surprising thing in the world. And support Bill on Substack too. Bill Rabinowitz.substack.com. Bill Rabinowitz.substack.com. And buy his book, Buckeye Brotherhood. All right, guys, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it. Reds fans, I'm sorry that I'm wearing this hat the day after they did not get Schwarber. Maybe that was bad timing on my part. I should have worn an Ohio State hat. But Bill's also a Reds fan, so maybe that was part of my I just threw a hat on. I really wasn't thinking much about it. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks to Bill and his time. Really appreciate him giving me some of his time this morning. And thanks to all of you guys. Live audience was large, and I'm sure we have a lot of people listening on the audio-only version on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. So thanks to all of you. We appreciate it. I know there's a ton of Buckeye podcasts out there. I know you guys take advantage of a lot of those, which is great. But I'm just glad you make the Bucknuts Morning 5 part of your routine. Thanks again to Bill. Thanks to all of you. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.